Welcome to Strive 365. I am your host, Justin Arnold. Today we have a very special guest, Josh Polito. I've been excited about this. Good friend of mine. We've known each other definitely before COVID, I think, but we've known each other for enough. And he is perfect for this show. He's gone through a lot of obstacles, challenges, and so that's why I want to bring him out here, because he continues to put health in the forefront for a lot of different reasons, which I'll share today on today's show. So, Josh, real quick, or not even quick, how about you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me, Justin. My name is Josh Polito, as you aforementioned, and I'm 35 years old. I always mess that up. I'm married. I have 2 kids. I'm an IT professional, local to Rochester. And, fitness has been at the forefront of my life now, pretty much my entire life, but very, very much more prevalent the last few years.
Tell us about that, because, one of the things that when I first met you, I didn't know much about you. And so he's got sarcoidosis. Did I say that right?
Yeah, sarcoidosis.
So
pretty good.
Tell us about what sarcoidosis is and your personal challenges with it.
So sarcoidosis is an autoimmune disease. It's an inflammatory autoimmune disease that can cause a number of systemic problems depending on where you have it. Now, in my case, it mostly affects my lungs, but I have, there's residual things that it affects all the time. Your joints, you have joint pain, movement, the medications you have to take if you have it chronically can cause weight gain, the inability to lose weight. It can cause a number of problems that you have to manage and, deal with or overcome on a consistent basis.
So you didn't mention, and this is what caught me off, is the rarity, but not just the rarity, the unique rarity of it.
I would say it's uniqueness. So it says it's rare. I think more so nowadays. I think people are finding it to be a little more common. They just didn't know, because it presents itself uniquely in every person, with some commonalities that I think it's more common now than it used to be, but it's still, I feel it's probably still pretty rare. Yeah.
Yeah. So something as far as, I remember you telling me, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it something that's more common in women and women of African-American descent? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's the Google, if you look it up online, it's most common, and I think it's African-American, Scandinavian women over 40. But I mean, there's, it's.
It's just one of these rare things. So walk us through a little bit, like the challenges, like how you found out, did they know what it was? Some of those things that people that aren't listening, that have never heard of you, never heard of this before.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
So that's a fun story that started in 2020.
Fun's a good way to put it. He shared this with me, so I'm aware. So
so I got sick in the middle of 2020. Before that, though, if I back up like a few years, I was a relatively healthy guy. Gets the flu every other season or something. I didn't really know my doctor on a first name basis that well. Yeah. And then 2020 hit, and we all know 2020 was a fun year. Anyway, I think this was about. I was consistently getting upper respiratory infections. They were chalking it up as bronchitis or acute pneumonias or things like that. And I just felt like I was getting sick all the time. Like every 2 weeks, I was like, man, I don't feel good. And then all of a sudden, I had one son at the time, my wife and my one son, Ben, who's my oldest now. We went for a walk on a Sunday. I came home and I had the worst, I kid you not, the worst stomach ache of my life.
How long was the walk?
It was like 2 miles. We just walked.
2 mile walk. So maybe like 40 minutes of that. Yeah.
We were a very slow 2 mile walk. Like we were enjoying the day. It was a nice day out. I get home.
Describe that stomach ache.
Knives going through my stomach. It was.
So
it was.
That's not
painful.
a stomach ache. That's why I wanted you to describe it. That's not knives. Keep going.
Yeah, it was bad. I was in the bathroom, in my bathroom for I think consistently for 2 hours, and I didn't know what was going on.
Pause right there. So I want to paint a picture too. This guy's he's a strong guy, not just physically but mentally. So I want people to understand when he says knives, think more like something worse than knives. I don't know, but he's dealing with a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was painful, and then all of a sudden it just went away. I'm like, okay. I come out of my bathroom. Now this is 4.5 feet, right, out of my downstairs bathroom to my living room, and I get there, and then all of a sudden, it was like I got hit in the face with the worst flu, and my fever spiked, and then I couldn't breathe. Now, I've never felt anything like this before in my life. I knew I've had the flu before, and the flu was obviously terrible. So I look at my wife. I'm like, I'm having a hard time breathing. My fever shot up. I'm like, at the time, I'm like, oh no, I think I got COVID, right? Because this was in the middle of the, right as soon as it lifted off, like it was right. And I'm like, I think you need to call the hospital and just tell them my symptoms and go from there. And they're like, yeah, you got to get to the hospital immediately. I'm like, okay. Because I wasn't sick before, and it just came out of nowhere. All of these symptoms: stomach ache, high fever spiked. Felt like I had the flu. I was sweating, and then the breathing. I couldn't breathe. It felt like I had something on my chest, and it was just very hard to get a breath in, get a breath out, the whole nine. Go to the hospital. I'm there for maybe like 13, 14 hours, get x-rays of my lungs. They said that the x-rays of my lungs, they couldn't really see anything. It was very opaque. They said they could see these, it was like tree and branch things. I forgot what the medical term is at like the base of my lungs. They could see these little, things in my lungs. And they're like, I got a COVID test. Came back negative. They're like, we think you have pneumonia. Again, pneumonia. They sent me home. So obviously, so they sent me home. On the way home, I get a call from the hospital. The one doctor who was the attending called. My wife talked to him on the way home. They're like, because we think it's pneumonia, we'll give you some antibiotics. Got some antibiotics. This is 7 days later, still 103 fevers. At night, I found out your body temperature tends to be higher at night. My fevers were always spiking at night and sweating through the night, and I just felt sick all the time. Worst flu of my life. Fast forward 20-something days later, still sick. I'm out of work. I'm on, I had to do a long-term disability claim at work. I'm seeing my doctor. I'm on a second round of antibiotics at this point now.
How old's your kid at this point?
So this is 2020. This is about a year and a half.
You hear that, folks? Dealing with all this with a year and a half. So anyone with bad kids, you want to spend time with that child, but he's sitting here trying to figure out what's wrong with him. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I go see breathing specialists. I get inhalers of like a powder inhaler where you have to inhale these like steroids that are in a powder form or something. It was a lot of unknown, a lot of crazy, and then I had my left eye swelled up. I'm gonna install this, and that was my saving grace. It was a good thing that it did because there was a local ophthalmologist. And
Purpose through pain right there.
Yeah.
Shameless plug for my
Shameless plug for the book.
But seriously, if that didn't happen, then you wouldn't lead to
I don't think so because he's the one who pushed me in a direction which resulted, I to this day, I think it's saved my life in a few ways. Definitely my sanity. So I couldn't figure this thing out for 2 months almost. My left eye swells up, and all of a sudden, the only thing I can think of is like Sudoku, right? How you have like the numbers like in the Matrix.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I had that, but in dots. I could see that out of my left eye, and that's all I could see. Like I could just see like these rows of black dots in my left eye, and it was swollen, it was red, it was inflamed. I call my primary doctor. He's like, you need to go see an ophthalmologist. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, of course, okay. I go see this ophthalmologist. He looks in my eye and he's like, yeah, your eye is severely inflamed. I think you have this thing called sarcoidosis, and you need to see a pulmonologist here, and they need to do a biopsy. Because, I'm leaving some things out here. Like my lymph nodes were all inflamed. They were all enlarged. So obviously that brings up concerns. And so he says this to me. And then, a little back and forth between me, a doctor, and getting referrals and whatnot. And they took a bunch of biopsies in my lungs and my lymph nodes, and it came back that I have this thing called sarcoidosis.
So give me a time frame between initial symptoms that can be attributed to this to when your initial diagnosis.
So I think I would probably say 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah, about 60 days. That's for when it got real bad. But if I was really gonna put some money on it, I would say I started showing signs of having for a number of years, on and off, sporadically. Yeah.
Because things don't just pop and things don't just, they're there. Like cancer, it takes time
Like
for
there's
it to
little
develop.
telltale signs, right? Like
Man.
like I said, I was a pretty healthy guy. I went down to Louisiana and I did the help with the flood relief. A few years back, and when I got home, I got meningitis, and I'm like, I've never
So
had
like
this
just
before.
a weakened immune system. You were fine, then all of a sudden things started happening.
Yeah, and then I had a kidney stone. I've never had kidney stones before, and then these are all side effects and symptoms of sarcoidosis. Like, so any people with sarcoidosis have to watch their calcium intake because their body can overproduce calcium oxalate, which causes kidney stones. You got to watch your sodium intake, all of those wonderful things.
So now that you know, so the diagnosis. Once you had that diagnosis, what was there treatment or what happened after that?
Yeah, treatment is a lot of prednisone, which is absolutely terrible. I will say that. I feel
For those that don't know what that is or why is it terrible, explain.
It's a steroid, and you're on a significant amount, or what I thought was a significant amount. I think it was on 50 milligrams or 60 milligrams a day for an extended period of time. You gain a ton of weight. Your body retains water a lot. You stay awake. It's hard to sleep because it's like drinking a ton of coffee. The caffeine jitters, but amplified. Just all around, you don't feel great.
But there's no like cure or anything for this. Correct?
No. Yeah. It can go dormant, can go to sleep, can go into a remissive state like cancer. It forms these things called granulomas, and that's how they can tell. But what happens is it creates a tremendous, whatever system or organ it affects, it creates a significant amount of scar tissue, which can prevent that organ from functioning properly. That's why it can be so dangerous if you don't get it under control. So current treatments that I found out after going through a few of them, and going through a few doctors and pulmonologists, right? Not because I'm really hard to deal with or anything, but because if this is for the rest of my life, you got to find a relationship that works.
Yeah.
So that's actually a good segue into, I'll bring them up, the Life and Breath Foundation. If it wasn't for them, I would never have known how to advocate properly for myself in order to, find what I need or what I needed to do. But yeah, after going through all the pulmonologists that I went through and different doctors, I ended up at the Cleveland Clinic, and I can't say enough good things about them over there. They took really good care of me. They made me feel like they were gonna have a plan and things like that. It was really good.
What currently, or have you, that you feel comfortable sharing? There's sarcoidosis, but there's other things you have had to overcome or live with or deal with. Share some of that, because what I want to get to after that is what you're doing to still to this day, in spite of, including to overcome, essentially. So
yeah, so that the best way I can describe it on a consistent basis, the things that I deal with is that feeling where you're really cozy in bed or you don't want to get out of bed. Or, for those that go out and like to have a few drinks or something, and then the following morning it's equally as hard to get out of bed. All of those wrapped into one just by going to sleep at night.
Just by breathing and trying to live like the rest of the population.
Yeah, some mornings I wake up and that's exactly how I feel. And it is a fight internally to, roll over, man, get out of bed. That's a consistent one.
So how do you do it? How do you get out of bed?
It's
what's going through your mind?
So recently, there's a few things. So I like to stay. I consider myself, pretty well read on, literature and things like that, and I read a lot of, motivational things, self-help. So, stoicism is a big thing in my life.
Okay.
Marcus Aurelius.
For sure.
It is your human obligation to get up and get out of bed and go be the best human you can be. So
I was going to ask, what was your favorite thing or biggest takeaway from that? So
there's a few.
Do you want to share anything else? Because people are listening to this Strive 365. So anything you think that might help somebody listening on the other side of this to help them strive?
I mean, for me, it's more or less like I feel like I don't have a choice to do the things that I do now, right? I do, but it's a no-brainer choice for me. I can tell you something that's pretty profound in my life right now. I'm a part of a lot of social media groups for sarcoidosis.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not as active in some as others, but recently there was a post from a woman's husband. She's a year older than me, and she passed away for having sarcoidosis in her lungs. And something that really struck home with me was, what if that happened to me tomorrow? My kids are young enough where would they really know who their dad is? And that's why I make the choices that I do, even though other people are like, you're crazy, you should not be doing this. It's like, oh.
Like what specifically that you're doing?
Waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to the gym, running when my lungs are, are feeling terrible, when they feel raw, like I just.
So why do you do that?
Because I don't have a choice. I need to show. One, I prove it to myself, right? It's like, that's my selfish reason. My selfish reason is I want to see how far I can push myself, right? But at the same time, it does help me feel better.
But why do you want to push yourself to that limit? Is that what I'm getting at? Is it to prove it to your children?
No, it's not to prove it to them. It's to show them, I guess, in a way.
Show them.
I would like to show them that just because sometimes life hits you really hard and it's out of your control, what's in your control is how you respond.
And people are watching that matter to you. And
Yes.
you want to see that you can, no matter what you're dealing with, whatever you're going through, that your mind is super powerful and you can overcome and strive.
There's
Another shameless plug, but seriously, it's about striving and thriving, and it's about teaching your kids and being there for them. I mean, I will look at it as like, I don't think you're crazy. Like, I do it because I want to maximize my time with my life. I want to self-improve in the morning.
It's a good, yeah.
And I get up early for that. People call me crazy too. And then I want to maximize time with my kids. So I can get a lot of stuff done before they wake up, because anybody with children knows once kids are awake, it's hard for two reasons. One, I love them, but they can be annoying. No, but they're noisy. They're kids. They're jumping around. They're jumping on your back. They love you. They want to be all around you. So like you trying to get some work done. So I can be super productive. But also if I'm super productive, then get my workouts, get work, whatever I'm trying to do early. And I bet you're the similar, is that you can carve out and have intentional, focused, intimate time with them. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that you're not, like, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to play catch up on the things that I needed to get done or wanted to get done in the morning.
Or you're not thinking about what you got to do later because you didn't get it done, instead of being present.
Yeah, with your children, right? And giving them
your
full
most
attention.
Favorite people
On the planet.
In the planet. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So people call you crazy. Fine. Claim the title. Crazy doesn't mean bad, right? I think crazy is good. I think we need more crazy in this world. In fact, not to be a shameless plug, I talk about being crazy and weird in my second book coming up, because because we see where normality has gotten us. You don't have a normal, you got a rare condition, right? Yeah. So this isn't something everybody's dealing with, and you're overcoming it and striving. So talk about some of the other things that you do to essentially overcome, strive, because you just said it there, because I was going to ask, is there a lifespan, like a life expectancy, lifespan? You could. Essentially, right? I mean, is that what you're saying?
I mean, it could get bad if it. So, like, the current treatment I'm on is, in place to prevent my immune system from going and wreaking havoc on my body. But I mean, anything could happen. I take a chemotherapy injection, chemotherapy drug called methotrexate. If anyone knows about that drug or is on that drug, it's
what does it do to you?
It's poison.
What is it? It's poison. Why is it? Like, what is it? What are the effects, the side effects, or whatever?
So I get super nauseous. You feel like, you feel toxic. Like, that's the best way.
Like run down. Like,
yeah, super run down. If your body was, it feels like your body's like taking a breath, right? But it's just you're just sweating everywhere. Like it's just really bad for a number of hours, and the nausea lasts, you have bouts of nausea probably throughout the next 3 or 4 days. Now, again, it's also amazing what the body and you as a person can get used to. Now there's ways to try to counteract that, but it's hit or miss at this point. It's like a 50-50 shot if I'm gonna have a real bad weekend or just a bad 24, 36 hours, and then I kind of get a little better by Sunday. I usually take them on Fridays, and then it's like, okay. Yeah, I mean, other things I do is things I've learned to do is, right, if I had to sum it up into 3 things, is I train hard, I rest hard, and I stay consistent.
Train hard. So what's train hard? Let's start with that one, and then I want to hear about the rest hard.
Yeah, so I've been doing.
What's train hard look like?
Well, I set out to do this thing a year ago. Actually, it was literally a year ago, last January. I'm like, I I got sick of just sitting around and like waiting for this thing to creep up and make my life harder for me. So I'm like, I'm going to run a lot. And I want to run
like Forrest Gump here. I'm just gonna run, and
Yeah,
when I feel like stopping and turning around, come back up. No,
So I was gonna run a marathon, and then I was gonna do it here in Rochester, just keep it local. And then they didn't have the marathon.
Okay.
So I ran the half marathon. I signed up.
Awesome.
That day, not running a ton at all. Right.
Wait, you signed up the day of?
The day I thought of this, I'm like,
okay. I thought like marathons today. Let's just sign up and do it.
No way. Yeah.
Dang.
I'm out of my mind, but not that out of my mind. So I sign up for this thing, and I'm like, okay. A couple days later, the anxiety set in because I went out and I tried to run, and, and my lungs are not great. And so then I got a running coach.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah, and she was larger than life, amazing. Very encouraging. She's like, this is going to be really hard, but I think we can do this, right? You'll be able to finish. Now, I wasn't out to set any records or break anything. I just wanted to finish, right? I want to see if it's possible with the medication, the treatments, the way my life has changed, the amount of, I'm a bigger guy. So like, is it possible that I can run a half marathon with sarcoidosis and all this stuff? And if I can, great, right? And if I can't, that's also fine too, but I'm going to try. I'm going to shoot for the fences and really try.
You mentioned something there too. He got a coach. So listen up, folks. Like, you don't have to do this alone.
No.
But he also meant, if you were listening, like, he didn't say, I want to run the marathon. And maybe you set a goal eventually, but it was just to do it. It wasn't, because I hear people stop before they start because it's like, well, I'll never be or I'll never get that, or I'll never be as quick, or who cares?
Yeah.
Start, finish.
That's it.
And if you walk like a quarter of it, you did it. Like, so I just wanted to point those things out in case people miss it, or just to emphasize the point that, like, that's what it is. It's just do something. For example, this is about you, but like, I did something this year to challenge myself. One, just like you, to spend more time with my kids. I got 2 hockey players. I've never skated a lick in my life. Mm-hmm. Fast forward a year, I'm now playing on 2 teams, and I'm coaching my daughter's team, and I'm skating a few times a week, and I think I'm pretty decent, but let other people judge that. The point is like, do some challenging things with the outlook of just bettering your life, and there's people watching. Heck, hopefully somebody listens like, man, if he can do it, I'm going to go sign up for a 5K or whatever. So continue.
Yeah, so I set out to do that, and that was at times very challenging. The training, there was a lot of the mental turmoil you can go through, the mental back and forth you can go in your head of like, what am I doing? What did I get myself into? Am I doing that? Like, is this the right thing to do? And the mental, it's a mental fitness that you have to, or it's almost a term or a phrase that I've heard, it's like a mental calcification that you have to do. You have to callous your mind to be like, to stop the naysaying that you give to yourself when you go through those things. And it's like, you're going to be fine. You're going to go through it. And you know what? You're going to come out the other end. And for better or for worse, you're either going to finish or not, but you're going to know something about yourself. So I went after it, and I trained, and I ran a ton, and I finished. And then I couldn't walk after, right?
Of course.
My wife basically carried me to the car, and then rolled me out of the car.
She carried you.
I mean, she took a lot of weight.
If you're not watching this, he's not. He's a bigger guy. Can I say that? You're a bigger guy.
I'm a bigger guy.
He's a bigger guy. You said something there too. That's what I was writing here. It's like and I'm sure you've heard this, but we all need the reminders. We are our biggest critics and our biggest obstacles. We are the most judgmental because we have to deal with ourselves every day. Yep. But what if we flip that script and we become our biggest cheerleader, our biggest supporter? Like, what if we just do that? And again, our children are watching. They're watching you commit to something in spite of everything the breathing, especially people who run 5 feet know how their lungs start getting, or like down the block. I mean, you ran half a marathon, 13.1 miles. Yeah, there you go. And so it took a lot of mental fortitude, and I'd like to say, like, he's not some superhuman in the fact that like if you're sitting here listening to this, like, well, that's him. I could never. You can.
100%.
Right.
You just got it. You just got to do it. Right. I mean, it's not just do it. You got to take the necessary steps, and it's consistency, right? You're not gonna wake up one day, and that's what I found. I wasn't gonna wake up and be like, because I went through that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So tomorrow I'm gonna run 6 miles. That's not gonna happen. You're gonna run like a mile, right? Or maybe you're gonna run a mile, and then the next day you're gonna try to do it a little bit more, and then you got to make sure you're resting and fueling your body appropriately.
You really got to listen to your body.
Yeah.
And so yeah. I mean, this is me. I've been doing this. For those that aren't familiar with me, I am going to be 42 this month in January, depending on when this podcast airs. But I been in the fitness world for almost 20 years, and I have my obstacles, my things. In fact, this summer, out of seemingly nowhere, not as severe as what you deal with, but I had a back injury to the point that I couldn't get out of bed for an entire day. It was like a shock wave, and I couldn't get a doctor to figure out what was wrong with me or anybody because it was so weird what happened. Like they went through all the telltale signs, and mine was completely different. Long story short, it was just, it gave me new focus as like what I was going to do, and sometimes you just got to get up. I was running pretty good regularly. You probably know that. I was doing really well too, and getting in top places for somebody who wasn't an avid runner in 5Ks, 10Ks, things like that. And then all of a sudden I couldn't run. And so like I had to like retrain my body how to run, because every time I'd even run a mile, my back or my hip started bothering me. So I had to be humble and just listen to my body. And since doing that now, we're in January now, I'm realizing less is more for me, and I'm back to my speed again. It took a few months, and it just literally took, some days I ran 2 minutes. I took an entire week off once, and then I was just getting a little bit better each time, getting a little bit faster, to listening to my body. And if you can do that and just keep progressing in some form of way, and again, just getting up out of bed, just challenge you and just saying, I'm going to do something, at least one thing to move closer to my goal, that's progress, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. So what else are you doing? What do you got? So you did this 13K. What else you got on the future for goals or to keep this consistently going, or anything on that front?
Yeah. So after my wife carried me to the car and got me in the house, and I was on the couch, I sat there, and the mental talk I had with myself was, okay, I did what I set out to do. I was finished. I finished it, and then I'm like, okay, I think I can put myself through more uncomfortable situations to show people what's possible, or just to show what it's like to live with this disease and see what you can accomplish. If
say that again,
anything.
I think I can. Say what you just said. Do you remember what you just said? I think I can put myself
through more uncomfortable situations.
Now change the word I think to I imagine, and close your eyes when you say it.
You want me to do that right now?
Yeah, why don't you do that right now?
I imagine I can put myself through more uncomfortable situations.
How did that make you feel?
The same way it felt when I thought it when I finished the marathon.
You just imagine, you envision it. So that's something I started doing recently, and I just want to share. So if you're listening and you say, I think I can do that, close your eyes and say, I imagine I can do it. I don't know about you, but it gave me, when you said it that way, I saw your face.
Yeah.
And it lit me up. And like, I'm over here wanting to cheer you on. So go ahead.
So in that moment, I'm like, okay, I want to do something even more. So what would you think is the next logical step after a half marathon? Is a marathon. Right? No. So
you're going to skip that step.
I skipped a few
Just listen. Yeah.
I skipped a few steps, and I'm like, okay, let's see what an Ironman consists of.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If you are listening, you don't have to do it his way, by the way. But yeah, go on.
I would probably recommend not doing it my way. So I looked it up, and I'm like, okay, so I think what I can do is I'll do a half Ironman, which is what I found out later is double the distance of the Olympic triathlon. Right, so it's 70.3 miles. It consists of a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike ride, and then a half marathon run at the end. And so I signed up, and I reached out to the Life and Breath Foundation. You know, some of the folks that I've met along the way with them, and I said, hey, why don't we partner up here, and we'll try to, I can show what it's like living with this disease in my lungs, and just going through it, what I do to push through, and all this stuff. Because I did make some YouTube videos along the way when I was running for the half. So I'm like, I could do that again, and we can kind of showcase it for on the Life and Breath site and kind of, give some people some sort of information or, show them what you can and can't do or what things, what side effects happen and what repercussions happen for making specific decisions when maybe you should or shouldn't and things like that. So they were on board and yeah, I'm doing the Ironman 70.3 in Atlantic City on September 10th this year.
Yes, you went Atlantic City. So let's be cheering him on for that. Anybody wants to join him, feel free. I will not. Maybe I will. Who knows? I can't say that. I don't imagine it, though. So you've mentioned it twice, the Life and Breath Foundation. Could you explain what that is? Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the Life and Breath Foundation is a great foundation for people that they give insight and advice and help and basically whatever you need for folks that have sarcoidosis. It was created by this guy named Sean Hall. He's the president, founder, and his mom unfortunately passed away from sarcoidosis, Ida Hall, and he started this thing called the Life and Breath Foundation. They have doctors, patients, they have tons of people that with tons of advice that specialize in sarcoidosis and give you advice on how to advocate for yourself, what information to bring, how to accurately track specific things and how they make you feel when you have this disease. What foods, what diets help and things like that.
I love that because so my wife's on this board. For something, not for this, but I love it because my wife's on a board for people that are the gap that's missed between that 18 to 36 range for cancer. And so she's on this board because similar reason. It's just so Life and Breath. I love this because there needs more of this where there's support because you didn't even know where to go originally and you didn't even know what was wrong. And for those that are listening that maybe haven't had the help, now maybe this is something new that you heard of, or maybe you're experiencing this and took you a similar route. So if you've never heard of the Life and Breath Foundation, check it out. Sounds like a pretty cool organization. Anything else you'd like to share? I have a few more questions though, but I wanted to see if there's anything else you wanted to share real quick.
Yeah, so shameless plug time, right? You guys should check out the site, lifeandbreath.org. And there's I'm trying to raise money by doing this Ironman for the Life and Breath Foundation. So anyone who's listening, if you want to go to that site, there's how to get involved. And then it says support Josh Polito. All the money that I'm raising goes directly to the Life and Breath Foundation. So you can check that out. But no, I mean, really, that's it, right?
Okay, so I'm pretty much going to ask every guest this. So what's one piece of advice you would give the people listening that they could do today to strive today?
Consistency. That is the biggest thing. Consistency. Anything that you set out to do, you want to be a better reader. You want to be a better motivational speaker. You want to be, good at macrame. Consistency. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to stay consistent.
One thing I would add to it. Pick one thing, and I would double that. Stay consistent, and I would even add to that. With that consistent, we kind of touch on it. Don't beat yourself up if you're not as good at the consistent thing the next day. If you don't read and you try to read 10 pages and you do that 3 days in a row and you only read 2 pages, but you beat yourself up so you don't even read the fourth day. Don't do that. You read 2 pages and 4 days ago you weren't reading any or whatever, whether it be the fitness thing.
Yeah.
You got to be, we talked about this earlier, we can be our biggest critic, but be our biggest cheerleader. So awesome, man. What are some ways that people can, if they want to, if you're cool with it, they connect with you, reach out to you? You seem like a leader right now in this. If you feel free, share whatever social media, websites, email addresses.
Yeah, so email address, joshua.r.polito@gmail.com. YouTube, you can look at Life of Polito. The same as on Instagram, Life of Polito on Instagram. And I track everything through those three. This is the best ways to reach out if you want to get a hold of me. Yeah.
Well, I encourage you all to check that out and share this with a friend, this episode, definitely, if you feel it might find some value. But thank you again, Josh. This is awesome. Yeah, no problem. This is awesome. Thanks for those that are listening and tuning in to Strive 365. We appreciate you. And like we say always here, man, find one thing to do to strive 365. Take care.